Hey, I'm Jesse. Let's have a devotion. We are in Exodus chapter 14. We're going to look at verses 26 through 31. I'm going to show you how the same event was chronicled in a psalm of worship. But here's Psalm 14, beginning in verse 26. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea so that the water may come back on the Egyptians, on their chariots and horsemen." So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak the sea returned to its normal depth. While the Egyptians were trying to escape from it, the Lord threw them into the sea. The water came back and covered the chariots and horsemen, plus the entire army of Pharaoh that had gone after them into the sea. Not even one of them survived. But the Israelites had walked through the sea on dry ground, with waters like a wall to them on their right and their left. That day the Lord saved Israel from the power of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. When Israel saw the great power that the Lord used against the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord and believed in him and in his servant Moses. So, as was the case with the plagues, you had not only a miracle in the plague itself, you also had a miracle in the fact that the Israelites were spared from it, and you had a miracle in its instantaneous abatement. This is different from the plagues, but similar. Different in that there was no abatement for the Egyptians this time. And it wasn't a plague, it was the miraculously parted Red Sea. In each of the plagues, Goshen, where the Israelites lived among the Egyptians, was spared. Everybody else was in darkness. There was light in Israel. Everybody else had water turned to blood. There was clean water in Goshen. Everybody else experienced gnats and flies and frogs. Goshen was spared. And now in this, the parting of the Red Sea, Israel is delivered. They find themselves out of harm's way at long last. And the way in which they are spared is with the washing of the Red Sea back into place. Again, we can see more textual proof that this was not some sort of event that can be explained through naturalistic means. It is clearly a miracle given the content of the text, because once more it's rearticulated that the water was like a wall on the right and the left of the Israelites, and the Israelites were on dry ground, not damp ground. They're on dry ground. And the fact that water is up like a wall defying gravity, as it would again as well for the sort of the redux rebaptism of the next generation of Israelites under Joshua's leadership, when the waters of the Jordan would flow vertically and the Israelites would cross over on dry ground like 1,000 yards from the Ark of the Covenant. In that same miraculous manner, all right, here's the original, arguably a larger scale miracle. The Red Sea is parted. The Egyptians chase them. Think on the foolishness of that, by the way. Think about the foolishness of that pursuit. After everything they bore witness to, after everything that they've suffered for this very reason, they give chase once more. And so God leaves no survivors. Not even one survived. That was all 600 of the best chariots in Egypt, plus all the chariots of Egypt. And there's not a single survivor by the time all is said and done. Here's how this event was chronicled in Psalm 77. The Psalms are a colossal collection. There are 150 of them. These songs of worship that are powerfully prophetic, many of them. And this one, it is poignantly reminiscent. And it's all the more striking when we consider what we saw in yesterday's devotions. Let me read briefly just a section of this psalm and then remind us of something we saw in yesterday's text. Psalm 77, verse 13. God, your way is holy. What God is great like God? You are the God who works wonders. You revealed your strength among the peoples. With power, you redeemed your people, the descendants of Jacob and Joseph. Selah. The water saw you, God. The water saw you. It trembled. Even the depths shook. The clouds poured down water. The storm clouds thundered. Your arrows flashed back and forth. The sound of your thunder was in the whirlwind. Lightning lit up the world. The earth shook and quaked. Your way went through the sea. and your path through vast water, but your footprints were unseen. You led your people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. That is epic, isn't it? Wow. Man, isn't that just incredible? Behold the incredible, just the majesty of the word of God. What a poetic, profound way to say it. And it's not overstatement. It's the word of God. And it ends the same way that today's text ends. You led your people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. And then once more, we can see that the people feared the Lord for sure, and they believed in him and his servant Moses. Now, the reason that I point out that ending of that selection from Psalm 77 and the ending of today's text is that they did not believe in Moses like the previous day. They were going after Moses. They were mad at Moses. They were even making up stories about how, like, man, what there are no graves in Egypt? Is that where you left us? You brought us out here in the wilderness to die? Didn't we say that we'd rather stay and serve the Egyptians? By the way, nobody said that. There's no record of anybody ever saying that. They're lying. And they're fed up with Moses. And now, because of what God has done, once again, now they believe in Moses. And so you can see that this is a dependency upon these miraculous signs and wonders. Like if you were to count each of the 10 plagues as a miracle that was performed through Moses, if you were to consider the demonstrations of the 3 different smaller scales of those plagues as 3 more miracles, and these are the miracles that were done on display, the first 3 sort of microcosms of the plagues to come, just done for the elders of Israel, and then of course all of Egypt and all the Israelites bearing witness to each of the plagues. Those are miracles for public consumption. Mass viewings beheld the 10 plagues, but now they believe in Moses. Now they believe. All right, so as we're going through the book of Exodus, this is what the current book looks like. I believe that, let's see, it's possible in our study plan that in a couple weeks you're going to have a different cover for part 2 of Exodus. But as we go through this text, just consider the incredible miracles to which the people of God bore witness and then seem to forget about in time. But fortunately, through the Psalms, the great wonders of God are chronicled, and they're given to us in the form of worship lyrics intended to be sung to God. This is a baptism. And in the book of 1 Corinthians, this would be referred to as the baptism of Moses. So New Testament baptism has roots in both the flood and the parting of the Red Sea. And both the flood and the Red Sea event have something in common. Those who oppose God are washed away. Now, in New Testament baptism, fortunately, people who don't love God don't die. That would be quite the shibboleth, wouldn't it? Come through baptism, and if you're really saved, you'll survive it, and if not, we'll all know. This was one thing that the flood and the parting of the Red Sea had in common. They both washed away those who rejected God. And this washing effect also further solidified, Noah and company, the 8 who were on the ark, and then now evidently the people of God. They are convinced. Now, it won't be long. They're gonna turn right back around. They're gonna want to go back into Egypt. The Back to Egypt committee is a vocal committee among the people of God, and they never cease an opportunity to express their doubt. They are always eager to share their doubts in Moses. But for now, we're on board. Would you take a minute and, in echoing the beautiful tradition of this psalm, Psalm 77, 13 through 20, feel free to take these words and to sing them to God, commemorating the great things that he has done. Consider what he's done in your own life, and consider what he's done even in this miracle of the Red Sea. If you've never taken the time to just thank God for what he did, delivering his people, give him glory for the parting of the Red Sea, give him glory for the washing away of those who opposed him and whose hearts he hardened, by the way. Give him glory because that's its intent. God, your way is holy. What God is great like God? And for those of you who aren't able to see what I'm doing here, the first of the two gods in that verse is not capitalized, and then the second is capitalized. So what lowercase g God is great like capital G God. Wow, evidently none of the thousands of Egyptian gods was able to stop the one true God. Not one of them is great like God. You are the God who works wonders. As New Testament believers from very biblically conservative churches like the Redemption Church, you can sometimes forget this. But man, if you've forgotten this about God, he does work wonders. He does work miracles. He is absolutely able to. And I believe that he does still today in the New Testament era. You revealed your strength among the peoples. He didn't have to do that, but he did. With power, you redeemed your people, the descendants of Jacob and Joseph. Selah. The water saw you, God. The water saw you, it trembled. Even the depths shook. Wow. Take a minute and make those words of that psalm a prayer of praise in your heart to God. The water saw you. The water saw you. That's exactly how it's worded here. And it trembled. Even the depths shook. Wow. May we not forget to tremble in the presence of God. Take these words from Psalm 77, verse 13 through 20, and give God some glory. Take some time right now and just give God praise for the magnificence of what he does.